So let's look at this game a little closer. Former Cowboys quarterback Danny White, Compass Media, they have the national Dallas call on Compass Media Networks. And, of course, he joins us here on the Boardwalk Honda Hotline as the Eagles and the Cowboys renew this rivalry, and both teams are having some rough years. Danny, welcome to the show. How are you?
Well, I'm good. It's kind of a sad rivalry right now, but I'm doing fine. Good to be with you.
It is sad. You got two teams that are really in all sorts of problems, although it feels like Philly's kind of getting healthy finally. They're at least coming off of a win. You've been around this Dallas team for a while. This has to be one of the lowest points that you've seen throughout the all the years doing this, with all the injuries and stuff that's going on, getting out in the media.
Yeah, it's crazy. 2020, right? There's so much going on with the empty stadiums and COVID, and it adds a whole new dynamic to the rivalries, the teams. You've got to factor in COVID-19 to all of this, and the teams that handle it the best, and that's, in my opinion, the teams that have the best leadership in the locker room, on the field, I think are going to be the teams that get through this the best. And the Cowboys have really suffered in that area this year with Mike McCarthy being a new head coach, new defensive coordinator, all the changes, all the injuries. It takes a lot of leadership to overcome that stuff. And the Cowboys, now, I will say this last week, in the last couple of days, they've made some moves that give me hope. I think there's still hope for the Cowboys. The Eagles are getting healthier. The Cowboys are going to get some guys back. But these moves they made, the three moves they made this week, indicate to me that there's hope for the Cowboys.
Yeah, I know you talk about guys getting healthier there, and that's been a big problem. Obviously, Dak, the biggest. What does the quarterback position, in your mind, look like this week for Dallas?
Well, we don't know. We're not sure who's going to be starting at quarterback and who will play the game. So that's going to be pretty much a game time decision, or at least a day before the game. But it doesn't matter. And I honestly believe that even if Dak was playing right now, other than his leadership and the intangible side of the position, until they get two tackles that know who they're blocking, and until they get some cornerbacks who can who aren't social distancing themselves from the receivers, it's not going to matter who's playing quarterback. I really don't think.
As a former QB, what's your thoughts on the lack of reaction by teammates after that hit on Andy Dalton? Does that just fully describe what's happening in that locker room?
No, I think that was blown out of proportion. These are young guys that are out there trying to figure out who they're going to block. And the last thing they're going to think about is, defending their quarterback or defending their running back, or I'm surprised Zeke didn't do something, or I don't even know if Zeke was on the field. I didn't see who was out there, but Andy took a heck of a hit. But at the time, I don't think it happened so fast. I don't think anybody even knew that it was a cheap shot, and especially those young guys. You look at that offensive line across the board, and they're a bunch of first and second year guys, second and third string players. And I wouldn't expect them to even know how to react to something like that. So I think that's something that's been blown out of proportion. But I do think there's an issue there. Somebody needs to lead those guys, and they need a player or two or three or four, and it's going to take more than one. Jalen Smith, Leighton Vander Esch, Sean Lee, if they can get him back on the field. Those are the guys, at least on the defensive side of the ball. On the offensive side, Zeke's not really an outspoken guy. Amari Cooper's a real quiet guy. The other receivers are young. There's just nobody there to take over the leadership role that, was voided when Dad got hurt.
Former Dallas quarterback Danny White, he's now a part of the National Compass Media broadcast for the Dallas Cowboys, and they are in Philly, Sunday Night Football, right here on 97.3 ESPN. You had Garrett there for so long. McCarthy comes in, and then, as you mentioned, COVID, and you can't get the training camp. I mean, is that apparent that it almost doesn't feel, from the outside anyway, like it's McCarthy's team? Like, all these guys were all Garrett players, and it was like they brought this new guy in to take him to the next level, but he never got a chance to really meet any of these guys. It's like being a freshman and having your first high school class on Zoom. You have a teacher who you never even met.
Yeah, that's huge. That is huge, and it's a factor. Big advantage that the Eagles have over the Cowboys right now is that Peterson has been there. He knows the guys. They know him. A lot of these guys were meeting Mike McCarthy for the first time, when they got there for 10 days of training camp. And how well can you get to know, 60 guys in 10 days when you're having meetings constantly? And, it's a real factor. I think there are certain things that have been blown out of proportion, like the hit on Andy Dalton and stuff like that. But I don't think we've even scratched the surface when it comes to the effect that not having a training camp has had, not only on getting to know the players, creating some chemistry, but also on the injury front. I think a lot of these injuries are just due to the fact that these players didn't have a chance to get their bodies ready for live bullets, and all of a sudden they're thrown out there. I mean, I can't even imagine playing a live NFL game with only 10 days of practice. And even those 10 days, they weren't in full contact all the time, and they're limited so much by the CBA. So there's all these factors that come into this season, and I think it's just going to continue to get crazier and crazier.
Now, Danny, a couple of weeks ago, I was listening to the game when Dallas played Cleveland, and it's 49-38. Dak's still playing. You guys are going back and forth. And if I think at some point it was like, you can't make up how bad this defense has been. Why has it been so bad? Is it personnel related? Is it scheme related? When you're watching this, I got to imagine, and I'm listening to some of your calls, like, I know you're calling the game for Dallas, but you almost sound dumbfounded at times at how you are watching a defense that is this bad, and how did it happen? Because they have been a scrappy, they never had like that big name, but they always seem to get a lot out of what they had.
It's a combination of all those factors that we talked about, and one of them is some bad personnel decisions in the offseason. Don Terry Poe was a bust. Ha-ha Clinton Dix just took him for $2.5 million and went laughing ha-ha all the way to the bank. Darryl Worley was a bust. Everson Griffin was a bust. Part of the problem is they're all rushing the passer because in order to get a big contract, you got to have sacks, right? They don't give you big contracts for getting tackles. They give them to you for getting sacks. That's the big stat. So guys like Everson Griffin are just rushing the passer, and they had him and Aldon Smith, and they're great pass rushers, but they don't even pay attention to the run. They just get upfield and try to get to the quarterback. So it's a combination of bad personnel moves, not having a training camp, a bunch of new guys, a new defensive coordinator in Mike Nolan, and they're all trying to create this chemistry and get on the same page with each other. And, the one guy that has come through for them has been Jalen Smith. And now they've got Leighton Vander Esch back. He's going to have to take a leadership role. And like I said earlier, if they can get Sean Lee back, that'll help a lot. But, yeah, the defense, the running game part of it was the fact that they had a bunch of guys out there that were trying to get sacks. And they're what I call me-first players instead of team-first players. And that's what they were doing. They're trying to get numbers to get a big contract instead of doing their job when a 3 technique guy gets hooked by the center, that kills the linebackers. Those guys get up on the linebackers; they can't do their job, and so one thing affects another, and it's just a joke. It's a comedy of errors out there that's all started by a defensive tackle not doing his job.
I want to flip to the Eagles for a second. Carson Wentz is very controversial here at times, and I just want to get your thoughts on his overall game since you I'm sure study a lot of quarterback play.
Yeah. Well, Carson's doing what all the great quarterbacks do, and that is he's trying to take it all on himself. Now, I need to qualify this. I'm a Carson Wentz fan. So I think if they can put the right pieces around him, and let me say this, in my opinion, there's no other position in all of sport that depends more on the people around him than a quarterback in the NFL. And anybody that's played that position, I think, will agree with me. Carson Wentz is a victim of the people around him. Now, sometimes you get more credit than you deserve because you got great players around you, and all you have to do is hand it off. And there are other times when you don't get enough credit because the guys around you aren't doing their job. Now, the receivers have to not only run the right route, but they have to get open. They have to get separation. The guys up front, you have to be able to run block and pass block. Your back has to pass block. And, everybody looks at running backs as if how many yards do they gain per carry? They don't look at how many times do they miss a block in pass protection. So all those things affect the quarterback play. And I think, frankly, this year, Carson has not had that kind of support that he's used to having or that other quarterbacks have. Look at the numbers that Dak has put up, that he put up early in the year. Well, with those 3 receivers and that running back and the offensive line that he started the season with, he ought to put up great numbers. But I think if Dak was playing right now, he wouldn't be putting up really any better numbers than the other guys are putting up that are playing quarterback.
Well, it's Sunday night. The Eagles and the Cowboys. First place somehow is on the line with these two teams who have had all sorts of issues. Danny, you mentioned the injury problems. Dallas has them. I think the Eagles might even have more. They are starting to get guys back. But it's always fun when these two teams get together. Danny will have the call for Compass Media Networks on the national feed. And, of course, he, like all guests, appeared via the Boardwalk Honda hotline. Danny, we always love catching up with you. Thanks so much.
I'm just glad for one thing, and that is that I get to go to Philadelphia early in the year. I don't want to go back there in December ever again.
Well, if you get a late playoff game, come on. Although I don't think that's possible this year.
Well, that's true. I don't think that's going to be possible this year. Somebody's going to win the division at 7-9.
That's right. Oh, if 7 seems to be an aggressive number, right?
Yeah, it might be. I
think it's 6-9.
Anyway, hey, great being with you.
Take care, Danny. 6-9-1 might be the number that gets it done, right? 6-9-1.